girls.
Hi everyone, it's Sonia here. So last time I was here, I told you I was going to give you an update about the protest that was coming, and I didn't do that. So I'm going to tell you today how that turned out. Also, I want to give you a general update on all the madness that's happening here in Canada. Oh, I have my zapper on, by the way. Last time some of you were like, what is the zapper? It's the Don Croft zapper. This is a thing that was popular like 10 years ago. It's a little gizmo here. I think is it buzzing? No, it's not buzzing. It's a little gizmo that they call it like blood electrification. It's supposed to like detoxify you and improve your energy. And I have had a lot of problems with fatigue and joint pain, and I don't want to complain, but it is what it is. I have hypermobility syndrome, maybe some thyroid issues, a bunch of stuff, but I got to keep going. So it's just one of the things that I've been doing to help me feel better and be more productive. And I think it does help. I'm not selling it though. I'm just telling you because you were asking, what is it? It's the Don Croft Zapper. I feel actually very lucky that I have it because apparently it's worth a lot of money these days. I think I got it for like 60 bucks at the time, and now it's like 250 or more. But anyway, Don Croft Zapper YouTube. It's not medical misinformation. I'm not telling people to use it. Just saying that's what this black box on my arm is. It's not like, it's like my personal 5G transmitter to like activate my microchip, you know? Anyway, if you like the video, please hit like for me. Thank you. And please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Oh, thank you for supporting my channel on Patreon. And also want to let you know that I've been on this keto diet for about 6 weeks now or so. I told you before, and then I didn't give you an update. And the update is I've lost 5.5 pounds. Yay! Finally. And I want to let you know one of the things I've been using, it's this Keto Elevate. I've told you about this before. It's MCT oil powder, but what's special about this one is it's all caprylic acid. So when you go into ketosis, your body shifts to using ketones for energy. And as you're transitioning into that, you can get like a keto flu, or if you have like an off day and you got to go back into ketosis, keto flu. But this will help you avoid the keto flu because it'll supply you with ketones. Because the caprylic acid is the MCT that's the most readily turned into ketones to be used by your body. So this is very convenient for that. And also, if you need a boost, if you're hungry, whatever, you need some ketones to fuel you, pop a bit of this in your coffee or whatever. It dissolves easily and it'll give you a good boost. So like, it's been super helpful for me, helping me stay on the keto easily. That and cauliflower rice. So if you're interested, I'm going to leave you a link below, and if you use the link, you get a discount. So, okay, guys, let's get down to it. A lot has been happening here in Canada, and it's like really quite crazy. So I want to give you the update. Okay, so remember this, whoops, wait, let me turn on my Snagit. Okay, so here was the protest that I was telling you was going to happen last Sunday, April 18th. Mass protest against the curfew, pro-mask. Like what? I've never heard of a pro-mask protest before. We want more masks. What? Anyway, pro-mask, anti-police state. I didn't end up going, okay? But it's just as well that I didn't go because, first of all, it was like a really small thing. It was only about 300 people. Now, we know that the media tends to underestimate the number of people at a protest. So maybe it was 500, but it was not a big thing. Okay, but look at what she's holding up. Masks, check. Distancing, check. Vaccination, check. Curfews, So like it's anti-police state, but like pro all the other stuff. Okay, cool. Whatever. So I was like, who organized this thing? Unlike previous protests, this one was organized by anti-capitalist activists. I was like, oh, it's the anti-capitalists. They're the communists. Like we have this thing in Montreal. Look, I'm going to show you. Okay, you see the CLAC, Coalition Ligue Anticapitaliste. This is them, right? They've been involved in a lot of other protests around here. So I'm familiar with them, the communists. They organized this thing, and they're saying they added that they believe the curfew disproportionately affects marginalized people such as victims of domestic, I guess they mean domestic violence, which is true, I think, and LGBTQ phobic violence. How are you going to be subject to LGBTQ phobic violence? I mean, you'd think you'd be safer in your house. But anyway, the homeless is true. People of color, sex workers, and others. Okay, so this was like definitely a very left-leaning protest. Like I showed you here, the claque, like they're the anti-capitalists, the kind, they're actually like kind of communists, you know. So what's kind of surprising is like the communists organized a protest against the police state. Now, seriously, you people are communists. Um, you finally get communism, and it turns out you don't like it. You think it's a police state. Well, what did you expect? Well, anyway, they're still having another protest on the 1st of May. We don't want the world that they're trying to sell us. No old new normal. Excuse me? No old new normal. What does that even mean? In French, it says pas de retour à la normale. We don't want to go back to normal. I don't understand these people. I mean, look, I'd be happy to go back to how it was before. I'd be happy to just have my freedom back and all that, okay? But anyway, I'm glad I didn't go to the protest because I'm not a communist and I'm not on board with the claque. Couple protests that are coming up though, like the teachers here and the parents have been protesting. The next one, April 26th, if you want to go get out of the house and manifest against online schooling. A lot of people are saying like, hey, this isn't sustainable. It's crazy because the government portrays it like, oh, this is a great alternative. Like just do your schooling online. But hey, we have to work. And you put the kids on the computer, guess who's going to be the teacher? It's the parents. Like obviously they're lacking the entire social aspect, which is very important, but also it's really unsustainable for the parents. So there's that protest. There was the teachers protest on the 14th. They're protesting for more money and improved conditions because apparently it's been really rough on them and they're not getting compensated. They're expected to do more with less. I actually interviewed a couple of them. Then I decided I don't really think you guys cared that much about the details, but let's just say the teachers are not happy. Another protest that's coming is Québec Debout, Stand Up Québec at the Stade Olympique and everywhere in Quebec. So they're having a big, huge march on the 1st of May, which I will attend. And I'm going to tell you a bit about what's been going on in Canada and like in Ontario and in general, and why people may really want to show that they're not okay with the way things are being handled. So Ontario, this was from the 31st of March. Today's coronavirus news: Ontario to enter severe COVID-19 restrictions for 4 weeks amid record high ICU occupancy. Quebec locks down 3 cities. So this was at the end of March. It was like we're going back to the whole lockdown thing. Ontario had actually been quite open. Their restaurants were open. They were allowed gatherings up to a certain amount of people in homes, which we never had here. We never had the restaurants open. But then apparently, according to them, things spiraled out of control. Last I heard, they had 750 people in ICU in Ontario. So they decided to do a lockdown. And this was actually like a huge fiasco. At this point, Ontario's Premier Doug Ford, he has been apologizing for how he decided to handle the surge in cases and hospitalizations, because what he had done was he decided the solution was to close the playgrounds and to boost police powers. So police were given the power that they could basically stop and demand papers from anyone outside their home. Like, why are you out of your house? And the playgrounds, I mean, really, I'll tell you why that's 100% ridiculous. I mean, one of the many reasons, but the poor kids. So what happened was, though, the police, thank God, refused to enforce Ford's COVID-19 random stop law. Just because Doug Ford has given police the power to stop and question why people are out of their homes does not mean services will use it. And so that is what happened. The Ottawa police, they said they would not be conducting the random stops to assess a person is in compliance with stay-at-home order. I mean, this kind of stuff had happened in other countries. I remember in Greece months ago, they had it. Like, I think in Italy, it got to that point too. at one point, that, if you were out on the street, the police could stop you and demand to see that you had proof that you were going to work, an appointment, or whatever it was that you had to do. And luckily, the police said, we're not doing this. So now Doug Ford has had to apologize. And you see here it says pledges paid sick leave for Ontario workers affected by COVID-19. So it turns out like one of the biggest things that's been driving the increase in Ontario, it has nothing to do with children on the playground or people going for a walk or going to the pharmacy or whatever they're doing. It has everything to do with warehouses, factories, construction sites. It was processing and manufacturing companies, places like that. Far more workplace outbreaks than retail and restaurants, data shows. So in a nutshell, what it turned out was that there are these huge processing and manufacturing plants and factories and these kind of places where the people that are working there don't get paid sick days. They're not rich people, so when they come down with symptoms, they don't want to stay home and not get paid. So you know what they do? They go to work, and they go to work sick. They give it to their coworkers, who then take it home, give it to their families who work in other factories. And you get it? It's like this chain of events. And so apparently this is where like tons and tons of cases have been happening. And the obvious solution would have been to just give those people the chance to stay home by giving them paid sick leave. But for some reason, the government was really resistant to doing that. They were like, oh, hey, like we can't afford this, but I'll show you later. They spent money on some other crazy things that way more expensive than just giving people paid sick leave. So this is where now they're considering that maybe they're going to do that. Wow, now they finally figured it out. So what they're so worried about are the variants, right? I mean, I know you guys, some of you are going to be like, oh, the variants, eye roll. But like, look, this is the story here. I mean, we've had these British and whatever variants. And I mean, so far, there hasn't been any proof in Quebec that they're causing more deaths. If you look at the stats, actually, the last 2 weeks, wow, Montreal has been really stable actually for like a couple of months. And we haven't even had a single death in a person under 60. Keep in mind, this is the unvaccinated group other than the healthcare workers at this point, or at that point. We haven't had a single death in the last 2 weeks in Montreal in anyone under 60, even though there's a lot of variants going around. So, we haven't seen an explosion of hospitalizations and deaths here in Montreal at all. But what they're really worried about, especially, is the Indian variant, what they're calling the double mutation, which they're saying we don't know how well the vaccine is going to work. We don't know if it's more deadly. We don't know if it looks like it's more contagious. They're worried because if you look at India, see, this is how they were doing last year. It was actually going quite well. And then, the variant starts popping up. It's kind of really weird because they said it was first detected in October. So what in the world? Why are the cases skyrocketing? You guys, let me know your best guess. I'm sure you have some guesses. So I'll leave it up to you. Let me know what you think. But yeah, it's going up really steeply. And the deaths also going up very steeply. But keep in mind, there are 1.4 billion people in India. It looks like a really big number, but India is a really, really, really big country. So yeah, it would be like if you had 100 deaths in a day in a country of 50 million. So it would be like a little bit like 80 deaths in one day in Canada. That's like roughly, if you translate it, proportionally. Wait, look at Canada though. What happened here? 177 deaths. I mean, look, we've had high deaths. Okay, like if you believe the stats, we've had easily over 100 and something, 155. So, I mean, at this point, the amount of deaths they've had in India from this are, they're still sort of within the range of what we've had in Canada at a time. We don't know where it's going to go though. But look at what happened in Canada. See, we were also like going straight up, and then look, it crested. It seems to be heading down. I don't know. Maybe it's because they closed the playgrounds for 2 days. I don't know. Oh, the COVID. Oh my God, it's in the playground. Anyway, so they're worried about the variants, especially the Indian variant. But where does the Indian variant come from? It comes from India. So the question was, well, why didn't Canada close their borders to India? And apparently it's because Justin Trudeau didn't want to discriminate. But, it's like every time you have a chance to actually stop a disease from coming in, you're like, oh no, well, we don't want to discriminate against the people who have the disease. And then after everybody here has to suffer. Anyway, so they did finally decide to ban flights from India and Pakistan for 30 days. But we have the Indian variant. We've had a whole bunch of cases in BC. I think it's 39. We've had one in Quebec. How did it get here? I don't know. How did it get to BC? Somebody came in. How did they get through? Well, it turns out apparently there's a lot of exemptions from mandatory quarantine in Canada. So all this stuff about people having to go to the airport and go directly to the quarantine hotel and all this stuff, well, apparently there's a lot of people who really don't have to do that. And from what I heard, it's the truckers and people like essential workers, people in the government, also students who are coming here to study. They don't have to quarantine in these facilities or whatever. They can quarantine at their university. I mean, I'm kind of, at the same time as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, yeah, but I remember there was a case in Australia. Someone came in and infected a worker at the quarantine facility. I mean, it's not airtight, right? Infected a worker at the quarantine facility. And that guy like spread it in the community. So, I mean, man, it's like trying to put a bunch of bees back into a jar and put the lid on. That's what I think at this point. So they're trying now to put the bees back in the jar by like banning the flights. I guess if they don't do that, people are going to be like, oh my God, would you want us all to die? We're going to get the Indian variant. But like I said, let's keep it in perspective, where's that graph again? Like we've had deaths and we've had cases here in Canada. The amount of cases they're having in India right now. Look at it. India, big, huge country. How many cases? 280,000 in a day. It sounds like an astronomical number, but like the US had actually had about that many. Look, there were times look, see the US, which is, a fraction of the size of India, like almost between a third and a quarter, right? They had days where they had 250,000. So that would be like if India had like 1 million or more cases in a day. That would be equivalent to the US at its peak. Something like that. Close to 1 million, Anyway, let's keep it in perspective. Let's see what happens. So this is the other thing that Canada's done. Ontario closes border with Quebec to essential travel only. So since the COVIDs had already come in, they hadn't effectively kept them out. I mean, can you believe like all this stuff that they tell us that you can't go and travel somewhere, get tested, come back, quarantine your house. As long as your test is negative, you have to go to this facility. And yet there's other people that go straight through, may or may not even have to get a test. And what's really crazy is that there are these saliva tests, and why aren't they using those? Like, why don't they just use those right away? They're available. They use them on film sets. The government uses them. Why don't they, if they have an outbreak at a school, why don't they use that thing? Why don't they use it, for travelers coming in, especially the ones who don't have to quarantine? I don't get it. But they haven't done all that. Even the truckers coming in, like, give them a saliva test. It's ridiculous. It's like, if you had a dam with many holes in it, and you put all your effort into sticking chewing gum over here, and meanwhile, whoosh, there's like a whole bunch of water coming in the other side, and you're like, oh, but look, we're doing a really good job over here. It doesn't make any sense. Eh? Enter the pandemic fatigue, right? Ontario closes border with Quebec to essential travel only. So yes, since they couldn't put the bees back in the jar and they closed only this part of the dam, then they decided to like close the borders between the provinces. But of course, this doesn't include the people who work there, who have like some legitimate reasons. So there's lots of people going in and out. So I'm not really sure how much it's going to accomplish. They stopped the 24/7 monitoring of inter-provincial border crossings because with Quebec and Ontario, it's like this. And you have people over in the Quebec border that are going in Ontario every day. and the other way around. Like it's just a constant, circulation of traffic. So you know how much it costs? Where is this number? I seen it before. Yes, here we go. The first 24 hours of maintaining the checkpoints cost Ottawa police $113,000. That's just 24 hours. And they actually considered that they would have these checkpoints. But, they hemmed and hawed about giving Ontario workers sick leave. Like, it's so crazy. But at least now they stopped that. They stopped those checks. But it's like they didn't want to deal with this properly in the beginning with the testing and monitoring who's coming in. And again, it's like putting the bees back in the bottle, and now like they're putting it on us. People are getting really, really fed up. So we're going to have some protests here. And I mean, look, guys, I know that this protest isn't going to solve this problem. But I mean, if you feel like you want to get out and show what your opinion is, it's legal. You can do that. I find it's really like pretty disorganized and chaotic. If I want to go visit someone in the States, the only way I can go is by plane. And then I'm forced to do a $2,000 mandatory hotel quarantine upon my return. And meanwhile, tons of people who are already outside of Canada are returning by land border to avoid quarantining in hotels. So far, close to 20,000 have crossed by land since February 21st. So, I mean, what is the point of doing all this? And then you have 20,000 people coming in by land, not having to do the hotel quarantine. It makes no sense. If the government paid for that mandatory hotel quarantine, this wouldn't be happening and the airlines could stay in business. You got to wonder, like, are they really that incompetent, or are they doing it on purpose? Because there are a lot of other countries where it has not been like this. A lot of Asian countries, they dealt with it really well in the beginning. And like, I have a friend who's living in Vietnam and life is pretty normal right now. They're not dealing with like all these crazy restrictions. And if you remember in Israel, when they were doing their vaccination campaign, they said that even with all the restrictions of their lockdown, it wasn't making a difference. That's what they said. It was not getting things under control. So, I mean, it's like we have to kind of pay now for like all this incompetence. Was it willful incompetence? I don't know. Anyway, that's what's been going on here in Canada. The good news was that at least the police at some point said, okay, it's enough. You're going too far. Quebec police were more than happy to enforce this kind of nonsense. But in Ontario, apparently not so much. Anyway, that's the update. I hope you found this interesting and useful. Thank you again for hitting like. Thanks for your support on Patreon, and thanks for joining me in the chat. And thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.